Our first question for Charles is, as a science educator, how have you worked to integrate the arts into your curriculum?
Okay, so good afternoon, and everyone. So, first, as a classroom teacher, um, by default, we had to meet as a team. And so during our meetings, I'm sitting there with our reading teacher, our math teacher, I'm the science teacher, the art teacher, and the music teacher. All of us are in the room. And so one day I decided, you know what, if we all have to sit here and plan, then I might as well figure out how these other content areas can help me teach what I'm teaching. So I started reaching out and telling them, hey, this is what I'm teaching. How can we make this fit into what you're doing? I can remember one in specific. We were talking about sound waves, and the music teacher was like right next door to me. So I came up with this
Uh-huh.
ingenious idea. Let's do a unit where the students have to create instruments, and we're going to pull in. His name was Paxton, Mr. Paxton. We're going to pull Mr. Paxton into this lesson planning session. And so for about a week, maybe 2 weeks, we went through. Every time I taught a lesson, I got with him. We started the lesson with, hey, by the end of the lesson, we're going to make these instruments. And we just kind of worked hand in hand all the way through. Reached out, I pulled in the math teacher, pulled in the reading teacher. So we just made it work. Now, I'll be quite transparent. Back then, I didn't call it STEM, I didn't call it STEAM. I just thought it made sense to do it that way. It just sounded
Right.
like a good
Yep.
idea. So anyway, that's kind of where I started at. And in my role now, since I've learned better, I'm trying to do better, right? And so now
Right.
there's some intentionality to our plan. When I go out to help teachers, I say, hey, here's a way you can include the arts or one of these other content areas into what you're doing. And I would say last, the way I try to integrate arts into the program, I keep myself open to be a learner. I'm real confident in what I know about science, but I'm real
Right.
transparent about what I don't know. I consider myself a lifelong learner. So I think that's one of my biggest strengths, keeping myself open on how to learn how to do what I do better. That's why I'm a part of this group, right?
How do you encourage those teachers to step out and try the art when you're coaching them in your maybe your coaching cycle? How do you say, like, what's that next step to get you into the art if you're stuck in your science content?
Well, we have to work hand in hand. We may have to co-teach that lesson. I may have to show them how that could look, and actually I say do it for them, maybe a class or two, and then release the reins and let them do that on their own. I'm real big on that. I don't want to just tell you to do something and kind of leave you out there on your own to try to figure it out. I want to be right there side by side, showing you how it works, uh, telling you my experiences, and getting to the point where I could show you how it works. And then again, being transparent and saying, hey, if we tried and it don't work, hey, we're all learning. And I'm open to your feedback.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I have another question for you. I have enough time.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Do you think it's possible to meet both state science and art standards when developing K-12 curriculum?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's been said in the two keynote um,
Mhm.
presentations we just heard. We got some excellent examples of how they overlap. And going forward, I'm going to really begin to not that I hadn't been doing it, but I'm going to really zoom in on how those overlaps take place and start to be again really intentional on being able to bring out how exactly they do. I've been writing notes for the past however many minutes we've been on listening, so I can take this back to wherever I'm going to be at tomorrow and begin to start these conversations about how the two areas overlap and how that makes a really robust STEAM lesson or unit.
Do
One
you
minute.
have 1 minute? Okay, 1 minute. This is a little different. Do you think what sort of STEAM and STEM based professional development do you think teachers need between the two different STEAM and STEM?
So I think if, we got a lot of STEM teachers in our district. I think those teachers that are already in the work need to see the benefit of integrating the arts.
Mhm.
I need to, and again, that's why I'm part of this group. I want to be able to intelligently explain to them, hey, let's begin to integrate the arts and hear the benefits. I know we don't have but a few seconds left, but begin to research the benefits, translate those benefits to them, and then help them to put together that professional development that really shows them how to put together some great lessons.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you. And I think it's my turn now. And so I'm going to, um, or is it my turn?
Yeah.
It is your turn. We're going to welcome in. There she is, Ashley.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Ashley. All right. And so I want to say good afternoon. It's afternoon where I am still to Ashley. And good afternoon. All right.
Yeah.
First question for Ashley. As a dedicated STEAM educator, how do you work to ensure that all students have access to STEAM education opportunities in your school?
Yeah, so I feel like for me, it's super fun. So I've made it a priority to try and essentially connect every unit to either another subject area or some kind of identity and community concept. So it's really made it easy or to kind of prioritize those different things as we're building things out and make those connections as early on as possible. I think trying to maximize the time that we have with students. I was once asked, like, if you could have anything, what would you want for your classroom? Be creative. And I had said to like clone myself or when kids walked into my room to freeze time. So I think by integrating other subjects and partnering with other teachers, it allows maybe the research step for a project to happen in, say, like the science room. And what they would just wrote a paper on, now we can create a piece about. So I don't need to spend 3 days on kind of digging deeper into the meaning behind the piece. So just finding those opportunities for the overlap and get creative with students' use of time. I would say being flexible with what that learning can look like. So, kind of breaking down the silo situation where maybe I'm doing something just in my room, or maybe a science teacher pops into my room to celebrate something that we're exploring. Or an example was I kind of pushed out for a cool idea that a science teacher had. She had run it 1 year prior and she wants to do a museum of illusions.
Mm,
She's like, I know it was great, but I think it could be better. Like, what kinds of projects and artists can we maybe look at? So we kind of teamed up, built out some of the project ideas for students to explore. I presented to like the whole sixth grade at the time in the library real quick about the history of op art. And then in both settings, they kind of played around with, and some at lunchtime with like after images and mixing paint for that color relativity. They were doing some cool like refraction, reflection sculptures and things. So I think being flexible with what that could look like, and then also just maximizing time is pretty important.
okay. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on professional development, specifically for arts teachers, that would better help them incorporate science into what they do?
Yeah, so I think the start of those conversations is sometimes the most intimidating part from either direction. It oftentimes is not a ton of extra work in regard to you're not necessarily prioritizing somebody else's content, if that makes sense. I think sometimes there's like a
Hmm.
level of defensiveness with that kind of initiation of a conversation. But I think it's been unique with how the collaboratives tried to frame that conversation and has done a really great job trying to model kind of the framework, right? Like how are we really going to talk about the skills? It's not just that we are exploring weather or we're exploring plants. It's really, hey, they're doing this. We really need to focus on communication and how they express what they're learning. We need to think about the problem solving, right? And kind of deciding where those skills are going to happen, and in what setting it might happen in. Um, and I feel like the collaborative, just in general, has felt very similar to when you go to a good conference and you connect with people that you've never met before, just that
Hmm.
fun energy, and you
Absolutely.
look forward to seeing them the next year. So I think that's been really cool too, because it's primarily been a virtual community, and I think that's like a very niche thing. So
Okay. I think
yeah.
you've done a little bit of this, but can you give us some more about how you create interdisciplinary learning experiences for your students?
Yeah, so whether it's an article I found or I'm focusing on a specific learning need that's kind of popped up within a specific subject area, I think starting with an artist is always super fun, and they just popped in my Modern Met. That's one of my favorite go-tos. They do a really great job at sharing different artists as fun jump starting. But for example, Jill Pelto was an artist that someone had brought up. She is like a climate artist and data communicator, and she loves to kind of
One
speak to
minute.
things virtually. So we connected that with the Human Impact Unit in fifth grade. We have a woodbending artist who's a parent. She's coming to do that with students, and that is going to revolve around so many thinking skills like communication as kids are helping with the clamps, and we got to be really quick before the glue dries and planning all that out. And like I know our math curriculum changed this year, so they don't have as much time to talk about um, translation and reflection. And so we're doing tessellations, but we're 3D printing them in the art room. So just trying to find really creative ways to make that overlap is great.
All right. Thanks, Ashley. Turn it over to you.
Yeah.
Okay, Ashley, let's welcome. And by the way, Ashley has some links in the chat if you didn't see them, and she wanted to share those. So, Amanda, you're back. All right,
Yep.
I'll let you guys start at your questions.
Hello, Amanda. All right. So,
Hello. Yeah.
from your kind of like leadership perspective, can you talk to us more about your work to create STEAM-based professional development in your district?
So in my district, we started, so this was kind of a hot topic. We started seeing our science data decline, especially in our eighth graders and then our gifted students and our advanced students. And we kind of did a deep dive in why they were declining and what was the purpose behind it. And that's really where we thought, okay, it's not really engaging them enough. And then we thought, what could we bring in cross curriculum that would support their learning better? And that's where we came with STEAM, like, okay, this could really help. To convince the teachers to understand like the overlay of how it really works, what it looks like. What we found is when we got the buy-in and they started realizing, okay, this is pretty neat to do with our lessons. Also talking to other teachers, which is kind of what both you and Charles said, like it's very teachers that are set in their way, it's very intimidating for them to have to come to a STEM PD and like, what is the difference? Why are we doing this? And so it was a lot of collaboration, a lot of building excitement around it so that they could see it in their classroom, they could visualize it in their classroom. And what we're finding is because we started integrating it about 2 years ago now, our data is going up. And so we started tracking it, our fourth graders, our sixth graders, and our eighth graders. And so the buy-in is there for our district finally, but took a lot of time.
It seems like both you and Charles have done a great job, like creating an environment where people feel comfortable taking risks, just like we ask our students to take risks. It's kind
Yeah,
of like, we'll
yeah.
do it together. I can kind of teach with you and it'll be fun.
It's definitely like a lot of coaching cycles. I realized that some teachers were just not going to try it unless I put myself out there to give a coaching cycle and then and put myself in their classroom and try to do it so
Mhm.
that they could see the art integration, bringing in music. How does that really work? And having those deeper conversations with your teachers.
It's also more to manage. So with more adult hands, makes it
Yes.
easier to process.
Yeah.
So our next question, how in your view does STEAM learning nurture critical thinking and problem solving?
Oh, this is a big one. I think it opens up more analyzing, more reflecting on how something failed and what to do when it fails and how to build it back again. It just gives kids a time to critical think and have hands-on opportunities. I know in today's world, especially Texas, we have a lot of just make and take and skill driven lessons. And so this is kind of our way of saying, like, hold on, we need these engaging lessons that are building up that critical thinking. I always tell my kids to fail fast and pick up, and what's the next thing that they can do. And when they fail, that's usually where we have to talk a lot about that critical thinking and perseverance part so that they don't give up. And I think it helps the teachers know, like, let them be in their little world and create what they need to create for your lesson. And you don't have to give limits to them. So it's definitely a key part in it.
Thank you. And our next question was, what role do you think that research can play in the development of STEAM-based curriculum?
I think that it's a big part in getting your administration buy-in. When it's research based, I think more administration or our curriculum teams are understanding why the benefit is there. Especially your superintendent or your exec board we have is that they would like to know why the purpose is behind it. And so when you're able to give that why and you're able to give data to them, I feel like a lot of our school board members just love a lot of data, just presenting to them. They love a lot of data. So that research based helps support changing over the mindset in your teachers.
Yeah.
45 seconds.
Yeah, and just to kind of
45
build on
seconds.
your comment about admin, do you think that your administrators are starting to really understand how creativity can influence student learning now that especially you're tracking those students and you have that 2 year
Um,
sample? Okay.
let's say this. It's a very slow process. I'm not going to say it's like miracle over here because it's not, but I think it's because the data is showing that our fourth grade and our sixth grade creativity and our fourth grade and sixth graders have a better attitude about trying things compared to what we've seen in the past is like they just don't want to do it or they don't are engaged, they're not engaged enough in it. But with that data, the administrators are so, especially my middle school and high school administration is slowly changing to realize, okay, it needs to be more hands-on. There's needs to be that integration between science, art, math, and we call it ILR, but like English and reading and how it can all intertwine.